Hello there, Kevin Smith, Scholarly Changeworks here. We have just finished up a brilliant weekend here at the Carolina Renaissance Festival, and nature was so kind as to wait until Monday to start bringing the rain. So it's been raining off and on, and therefore I'm not going to be standing outside recording this video. I'm just going to sit in the car here, and it'll also muffle the sound of generators nearby. So what I wanted to talk about today is the idea of leading and leading clients. So there was a speech that was given by D. Corydon Hammond at this meeting of different psychotherapists, and he was talking about the importance of not leading the client. And this was at that age in that time when hypnosis and regressions were fairly synonymous in public mind, or in the mind of professionals at least. That, if you were going to do hypnotism, well, you're going to go and do a hypnotic age regression and bring people back to a time of trauma and go and find out what really happened. And it was really important, as Corydon said, Dr. Hammond, he said, don't lead the subject. Or the client, or the patient, I forget which word he used in that context. But in hypnotism, the idea of leading, where you're taking something that a person says and then leading it, pacing their reality and leading into a different experience or a different understanding. At some level, it's really fundamental for hypnosis. And I like James Tripp's definition of hypnosis, which is hypnotism beyond the trance myth, that hypnotism and trance are two separate things, and they can go and accent each other and complement each other, but they are in no way necessary one to the other. And so his working definition is that hypnotism is the engaging of a client's belief or a subject, engaging of beliefs and guiding and directing of consciousness to facilitate an alteration in the person's subjective reality. And it's really brilliant, and it doesn't say anything about the different subtleties of hypnotism, like the skin flushing. Are you looking for muscle tone differences? For the people that are into trance, then they need to go and focus on that, because you have to know if they're in trance. But if you're going and just doing this model of hypnotism, then the way that you know if hypnotism is occurring is if the person is reacting according to this new altered form of experience of reality. So if you're doing, just a play around hypnotism and you're getting a person's hand to stick to a table, or they can't drop the scarf, or they forget their name or a number, then, well, you get that experience and you just do little checks. And it's like, and your hand is stuck to the table. And what's that like when your hand is stuck to the table? And then they will feed it back, and you feed it back to them, and it goes and strengthens all of that. So, and all of that involves leading. Now, in a therapeutic context, when I'm conducting therapy with a client, beforehand, before any of the hypnotism starts, or the hypnosis, you want to go and do the pre-interview to have a good understanding of where the issue is lying, and what you get a good picture and a good view of what's happening. And so you ask the client and you say, hey, what's happening? What is the issue? And they say, I'll just go for example, whenever this situation, when X situation happens, it feels like a rock in the pit of my stomach. And so, I say, all right, and when this happens, when X happens, it feels like a rock in the pit of your stomach. And when it feels like a rock in the pit of your stomach, what kind of rock is that rock? And then that way you're going and engaging the person, and using the clean language so that you're not introducing your own concepts and metaphors and symbolism into the whole thing. And that person's own symbolic landscape will start to open, and they'll become more aware of their relation in a symbolic fashion to these different things, to the different issues, to where they want to go. And so you don't want to lead the client then, but all of therapy is predicated on the concept that the client is in a situation that they don't want to be in, and they would rather be somewhere else. So of course you want to lead the client from their problem state to a resource state, to a place that is much preferred over what they are currently experiencing. And so to say, yeah, don't lead the client, well, one, you kind of have to. And then tying back to don't lead the client when you're doing the pre-interview. And then in order to do hypnotism, you're engaging their beliefs and leading the client, and you're utilizing your verbal and nonverbal communication to enact this, to affect this. But then with Corey Don Hammond, in the situation that he was going and talking about, don't lead the client or the patient or whatever the word he used. I'll go look it up later. But he's like, don't lead them at all. But if you're doing an age regression, you can't do the hypnotism without leading the client or the patient or whoever, the other person, the subject. But also if you're doing an age regression, that is explicitly leading the client back to, in their mind, subjectively to this experience of the previous, whenever this happened the first time, or an earlier time when this happened. And so you can't do regressions without leading the client. And the mind confabulates things. The subconscious will go and make stuff up, because that's what our minds do, is to make sense of things. Whether or not it's true, with the objective external reality, well, that's another thing. But our minds create our experience of reality in every waking moment, and also in our sleep. So there is no way to go and do this without leading the client or the subject or the other person. And so those are just some thoughts that I had on the concept of leading as it applies to hypnosis, and then particularly with different therapeutic modalities. When I'm doing Dreamwalker as a character and I'm engaging patrons at the Renaissance Festival, that's all leading. Like, first I go and I engage their beliefs about, their understanding of the wizarding world, and I'll tie into things like Harry Potter and things like that. And then I'll go and I'll lead their experience and their focus and their attention to bring about and facilitate an altered experience of their subjective reality, because that's where all the entertainment and fun happens. So those are my thoughts. Have a good one. Be well.